Good morning, beautiful global family. Welcome to 10 Days of Pleasure. Ooh, I'm so excited. So, wow, this whole 10 days of pleasure kind of birthed really organically. I kept on hearing and remembering that May is International Masturbation Month, more towards the beginning of the month, and then I was like, oh, I should probably post about this on social media and the J Temple Sisterhood group. And then I made an initial post and I was like, what do we do for International Masturbation Month? Which I actually like to call International Self-Pleasure Month because I much prefer that word. And then through the suggestions of a couple of you, I'm going to shout out Jules and Nick here. You're like, let's do a pleasure challenge. And I was like, okay, this feels amazing, pleasure challenge. But then I started to ask a bunch of questions in this group to all of you, like, just to kind of get the wheels turning, like, what blocks your pleasure, what prevents you from it, what enhances your pleasure. And I realized that one of the most common things is this idea that we should be experiencing pleasure, that we should be making space for it in our lives. And, perhaps by implication, if we're not doing that, then there's something wrong with us. And I realized that, okay, I don't want to do a pleasure challenge, so to speak, but I love to talk about pleasure because pleasure reclamation has been a huge part of my personal and spiritual and even my creative and my work journey over the last many years. And it's something I'm really passionate about because, there's many reasons, but one of the main ones being that I used to not experience hardly any pleasure in my body. A little bit, sure, a little bit, but I was really lacking in the pleasure department, and I've completely turned that around. I now experience unbelievable, massive amounts of pleasure and orgasmic ability. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about this because I know that all women can vastly increase the amount of pleasure that they are able to experience in their bodies and hold in their systems. And I wanted to reframe it from being 10 days of like a 10-day pleasure challenge to 10 days of pleasure, because I really just wanted to provide an open space to come into this group for me to share, for you all to share, for some of these different beautiful experts in this field to come in and share with me about pleasure without so much pressure, without so much okay, you have to go and experience pleasure in your body and specifically this one type of sexual pleasure for 10 days in a row. Like, that doesn't work for a lot of women and female-bodied people, I have found. So I decided to put a little twist and just do 10 days of pleasure and, see what comes out. I have a little bit of an idea of what's gonna, some things that I want to share in this group in these 10 days. I have far more things to share than what I possibly ever could share in just 10 days. So I'm really open to your feedback and to hearing about different questions you have or different aspects that you want to hear about. You can always send a message or post in the group. But anyways, let's get on with it. So today I want to talk just a little bit about what is pleasure and a couple of ways to both reframe pleasure and give you some tips and tools for how to drop into the body without pressure. Because again, this sense of pressure that a lot of women and that a lot of yonis can experience to have pleasure, this can actually be a big block for pleasure for a lot of us. So what is pleasure? There's a lot of ways to define pleasure. I think that for me, pleasure is just something that feels good, not only in my body, but with the senses. And beyond feeling good, it's something that nourishes me from within. It's like a soothing, like it helps me to come into presence with myself. It helps me to drop from the thinking mind down into the body, into these deeper areas of the brain, actually, where rest and rejuvenation and relaxation and healing and the sense of wholeness can be restored. So again, to me, pleasure is what not only feels good, but what is relaxing, grounding, nourishing, nurturing, that helps me to bring me back to myself. And a lot of the times it involves the senses, okay? So one thing that I really want to encourage you to do and to, I guess, reframe in these pleasure days is about sensory pleasure versus sexual pleasure. Sensory pleasure I also refer to as sensual pleasure, because the senses are really all about turning on our sense of sight, our sense of sound, our sense of smell, our taste, our touch, and allowing this to register to our bodies and to our brains as something that feels good. So the simplest one, maybe not the simplest one, but one that's always accessible to us, is this sense of touch. If I drop my attention here right now and I just feel this, I can really feel like, wow, this is pleasurable. This is super nurturing. This just feels good. This is a way to feed my nervous system. So this is a very different way to think about pleasure than that like hot, horny, turned on sexual pleasure that I think we're really conditioned to think of as pleasure. So that kind of pleasure is amazing, and I'm a huge, huge proponent of it. But I think the kind of like the irony in a sense is that when you seek these other types of more sensory pleasure, and you allow yourself to really drop in and be present for them, this is what opens the space for more sexual pleasure to come in. So yeah, the sexual versus sensual pleasure reframe is a huge one. Something that you could do if you want to go into this a little bit more is to journal about what kind of sensual pleasure, so again, this is the 5 senses, really delight you, really turn you on, really make you feel amazing and grounded and nourished inside. So another thing, this is huge, is goallessness. So most of the time when we're coming to our bodies and we're touching our bodies, whether we're by ourselves or whether we're with a lover or a partner, we've got a goal. We've got a goal of experiencing pleasure, experiencing orgasm, experiencing turn on. And a lot of the times this goal adds a lot of pressure to our sexual experience. And I think a lot of us are probably familiar with the effects of that. It's actually shutting down our system and our ability to experience pleasure. So in pretty much all of the work that I do with my clients and in my group programs, I'm always talking about releasing the goal, particularly for orgasm or for sexual pleasure at all. You can always, always come to your senses. They're always alive, they're functioning, they're just happening. Like right now I'm just pausing and I'm hearing some of the sounds of the nature. I'm looking outside and I can see these beautiful green trees and leaves. So this kind of pleasure is always accessible, and when I turn off this need to experience anything more than that, this is when the relaxation happens. This is when actually the nervous system and the brain get fed, and this is when, as I said, we can actually open to experiencing more sexual pleasure. So I really, really, really want to encourage you to have this orientation, not only for this week, but to really adopt this in your life, and particularly in your sexual encounters with yourself and with others. The goal of sex is not orgasm. The goal of self-pleasure is not orgasm. It's nourishment. It's being with yourself and with your body and with your senses just for the sake of this. And if you want to take this one step further, this is something that I also work with my clients and in my programs, is actually removing orgasm for a period of time. So actually having a no orgasm, in a sense, like challenge or devotion, where for a period of time you actually do go to your body and you touch your body, but you don't allow yourself to orgasm. Now this could be like a total, like for some of you, you might want to do that these 10 days, like remove orgasm from the menu for these 10 days. For some of you, another way that you could work with this would be like one time that you are either with yourself, self-pleasuring or doing these practices, one time that you're with your partner, you allow yourself to orgasm, and then the next time you don't. Just so you begin to get a feeling for what it's like to cultivate pleasure and to cultivate, like to enliven your. So the next thing that I want to share about in relation to pleasure is desire. So not only getting to know your desires, but really validating and almost like bringing this sense of open acceptance and approval for all of your desires, definitely in life, but also specifically related to your sexuality, is so, so key. So a lot of the times women can carry shame for what they actually want. Or on the other hand, we can be so consumed with giving to everyone else and everything in our life that we don't even know what we want anymore. This was definitely something I experienced a lot in my life prior to doing this work. I kind of had this running script of like, I don't know what I want in my life. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. And like, I was just kind of floating by, like allowing life to happen to me. And then I started going down this path of desire reclamation alongside of pleasure reclamation. And just to really start to get in touch with what I want on a moment to moment, day to day level was so healing for me. So just connecting to a very deep part of myself. And you know, I think that in some like spiritual circles, there's talk of desire being a bad thing. And in the way that I operate, and in a lot of the philosophies that I work with, desire is actually looked at as an amazing thing and as a gateway to, as a potential gateway, I should say, to our innermost truth. So here's an exercise that I will invite you to do throughout these entire 10 days of pleasure. It's to have a journal and to write 10 desires every morning. If you don't have space in your morning, that's fine. You can do it at another time in your day. But it can be desires about anything in general, but I encourage you to specifically kind of like focus on your sexual desires or your sensual desires or your desires related to your female body or your femininity. It can be a fascinating process to do this every day, even for 10 days, and then to go back and read your desires. Sometimes I do this for like a month or more at a time, and it's always so beautiful to go back some days, weeks, or even months later and be like, oh my gosh, like these are all of the things that I was wanting, and wow, actually like I made a lot of them happen. So getting back in touch with your desires is a huge key to bringing more pleasure in your life, because if we don't know what we want, then guess what? We're not going after it. But if we know what we want, then we have more capacity to give ourselves that. So another thing around this is worthiness. So feeling worthy, not only for pleasure, but for your desires in general. And this is actually a very complex topic that I'm not sure how much I'm going to really go into in these 10 days of pleasure, because it's, you know, there's many nuances to it. But one thing that I can encourage you to do is just kind of keep this idea of worthiness, or for some women they resonate more with the idea of deserving desire. So how worthy do you feel, or how deserving do you feel of your desires, of your pleasures? And perhaps as I'm taking you through the practices today and in these days, maybe even just as you're dropping into the body, as you're touching your body, as you're breathing deeply into the body, you can presence in your mind, worthiness for this. I am worthy of this. I deserve this. This feeds me, this nurtures me, which means that I have more capacity to show up in an even greater, brighter, bolder way in my life and in all of the endeavors that I do in my day-to-day life. So let's see, I got a couple other things that I want to bring in here. Okay. So last two things around pleasure that I feel like are, I mean, there's so many things, but that I feel like are really important to bring at the beginning. One is this idea of sensate focus. So it's actually like retraining our focus to our pleasure, to sensations. So for a lot of you, you've probably tried meditation before or yoga before. And what happens when we sit down and we try to focus on our breath or on our body? The mind automatically goes off and we're somewhere else. So honestly, the same thing happens when we're doing practices that involve the yoni or the female body. It's like I can instruct you to breathe into the yoni to keep your attention there, and maybe it happens for a couple of moments and then the mind goes off somewhere else. So one of the main things that can be super, super supportive in, really this is a lifelong journey and this is a lifelong practice, but especially at the beginning, is having different practices or exercises that are like again and again anchoring your attention into the female body. So that is specifically into the breast area and into the heart, into the womb or the energy of the womb and the whole yoni, the vagina, the vulva, the external genitals as well. So I'm going to give you a practice today that's a super simple practice that really helps to retrain this focus specifically in the female body. The last thing that I want to touch on is the sense of safety. This is huge. For a lot of women or people with yonis, we carry some sort of wounding, some sort of feminine wounding, or perhaps trauma, or just messages that we've received from culture and media and religion and parents and past partners or lovers about our bodies or about our sexuality that can have the effect of making us feel unsafe in our sexuality or in our bodies. So having tools and practices that you can do over the long run to really encourage a deep sense of groundedness and safety within your own body, and especially within your own female body, this is huge. Because when we feel safe, then we can get curious, and then we can explore, and then we have this openness. When we don't feel safe, there can be kind of like this shutdown where it's like, ooh, like, I'm not sure I want to go there. I don't know if it feels okay. And so I'm going to give you a practice as well today that really focuses on bringing this sense of safety right here within your own body or your own physical surroundings and environment. Okay, let's just take a pause for a moment. Take a breath in, feel the inner body, maybe touching the body. Okay, so I want to move into guiding a little bit of a practice, which is a pleasure break, as I'm calling it. So in this practice, I'm going to guide 2 or 3 different things that kind of touch on the different points that I mentioned today. So we're going to do a body meditation that's specifically focused on the pelvis to help you to just tune into different sensations that are there and to, again, anchor your attention there. Then we're going to do a practice that helps to bring in a sense of safety, so a resource in your body. And then we're going to do a little bit of a practice to connect you deeper with the female body in particular. This will be like about a 5-10 minute practice. So you can just get comfortable wherever you are. Sitting is fine, laying is fine. You can close your eyes if you feel to, or keep them open if you prefer. And now just dropping your attention down into your pelvis. It's almost like everything is softening and relaxing, especially the head and the upper body and the shoulders and the belly. And like the focal point of your awareness is coming to your pelvis. And now you're going to begin to speak out loud the sensations that you feel in your pelvis. So not the emotions or not the interpretations, but the actual sensations. So I'll give you a few examples. I'm feeling a tingling in the left side of my yoni. I'm noticing a heaviness through my sitting bones. I notice now a sense of pulsing in my womb area. The whole right side of my yoni has this, almost like this black, empty, spacious feeling to it. So continuing to speak out loud the sensations that are there in your pelvis. This is a muscle that we're building actually. It can feel awkward at first, but in time this is really powerful for connecting you with sensation and emotion. And now I invite you to just take a couple of moments and scan through your entire physical body and look for a place that feels safe or like home or comfortable. This could be your little pinky finger, your shoulder, your heart, your leg, your belly, really any place in your physical body that brings you to this sense of safety. And if there's no place in the physical body, then you can imagine a place in nature that you really, really love. Or you can look at something in your physical environment that brings you comfort, maybe a rock, or maybe a statue of something that you love. You can also envision this. So this is your resource. This is your anchor point. So just spend a couple of moments with your attention in this place that feels safe. Perhaps bringing your breath there as well. And just repeating to yourself silently or gently out loud, safety, safety, safety. Safety. And just taking a few more moments to really let your brain, your nervous system, and your body experience in the felt sense this safety. And so this resource is a place that you can come back to continually through these 10 days of pleasure. Anytime that you either feel a little anxious, or maybe if you feel triggered by something, or if your mind just wanders off and you're somewhere else, this is a really great anchor point to come back to again and again and again. Remembering that safety, along with this focus on retraining our attention to be in the body, this opens us to experience and receive more and more pleasure, which is good for us. It's good for our brains, it's good for our nervous system, it's good for our sense of well-being, for our vitality, our creativity. And now I invite you to bring your hands to your heart, feeling also your hands over your breasts. And the last practice we'll work with, the last pleasure break we'll work with, is called the inner smile to the female body. This is an essential Taoist practice. And there's a bit of a feminine twist on it in today's pleasure break. So begin to breathe and smile down into your heart and into your breast. Sending the essence of your smile into your breasts and into your breast tissues, into the cells in your breasts. Breathing and smiling into your nipples and into the center of your heart. And now dropping your attention downwards into your pelvis and smiling into your entire pelvis, to all of your sexual and reproductive organs and the energy of these organs, to the yoni, smiling to this part of your female body, just as a way to bring a positive quality of energy there, to welcome whatever is alive. It's another big part of pleasure reclamation, is welcoming what is here, not trying to make your experience be or feel or look like anything in particular, but just having this openness to whatever wants to move through you, whether it's pleasure or pain or numbness or joy or bliss or fear or connection, whatever's there, it's all welcome, it's all normal. And now smiling to the whole external yoni, the external genitals, your vulva. Specifically smiling to your outer labia, the outer lips, and your inner lips. Smiling to your clitoris. Smiling to your perineum, the place in between your anus and your vaginal opening. Smiling to your vaginal opening. And smiling to the inside of your vagina. Smiling to your cervix, the energy of your cervix. Smiling to your uterus, your womb, or the energy of this part of you. Smiling to your fallopian tubes, or the energy of them. Smiling big and bright and radiantly into your ovaries, or the energy of them. And now smiling again to the pelvis and the yoni as a whole. The outside, the inside, the physical organs, the energetic organs, the pleasure spots. Taking a few deep breaths as you really beam your smile down into your yoni, just sending love, sending presence, sending acceptance, openness. Really loving presence with the yoni. I have found this is the absolute foundation to feminine embodiment work. Bringing your love and your presence again and again and again, which is why we'll do the inner smile, why we are doing it here at the beginning. And as you're smiling to the yoni, to the pelvis, bring your breasts back into your awareness and smile to them at the same time. Smile to your whole body. And then letting your brain register pleasure right now. Pleasure from your presence, from your awareness, from your hands touching your body right now, from feeling the breath flow in and out of your body, these simple pleasures. One last smile and moment of acknowledgement, recognition, even a sense of honor, beaming that down into your yoni. Like this sense of maybe, hello, I'm here with you, I'm meeting you. Maybe for the first time like this ever. Maybe for the 1000th time like this, it doesn't matter. Coming back as if it were the first time, and like there's this sense of wonder, of spaciousness for this journey, for whatever will transpire. Okay, and then coming out when you're ready and opening your eyes. So this is it for the day. Those were our pleasure breaks. So let us know in the comments how this was for you. If you have any questions, any thoughts, let me know if you need anything, if you want anything, if you want me to elaborate on anything. And you can go ahead and do any of these practices again today, maybe before you go to bed if you want to kind of enhance this. And then tune in again tomorrow. I'll be here back tomorrow in a video or a post with more pleasure talks, more pleasure breaks. And I'm wishing you such a beautiful day wherever you are in the world. I love you. Remember, pleasure feeds you. You are worthy of it. Reframing the pleasure to mean something that works for you. No goal, no agenda, just pure love and presence with yourself and with your female body. I love you.